So I'm just gonna not be visible tonight and call the meeting to order at 6:03. Hope everyone's doing well. What a beautiful day it was today. And Morgan, you said we've got no visitors other than Northwest Public Access, eh?
Correct.
And we now have all board members?
Everybody but John, it looks like.
Oh, Sandy's got it going on out there on her deck with the beautiful blue sky and mountains behind her. That's the idea, Sandy. I love it.
Nice.
All right.
Mary, I just wanted to tell the group that I'm going to have to hop off at 7. I've got some other things in the pot tonight I got to deal with.
Okay, no problem. Thanks for letting us know. That's great. Okay, so for the consent agenda tonight, we have our previous minutes and we have a number of policies. Any discussion, questions, concerns about those? So if there are none, then I need a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Emily. And I'll do this by roll. Kat,
Yes.
Erin,
Yes.
John, Morgan, he's with us or no?
No.
Not yet.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. I thought he had arrived. Okay, Miranda,
Yes.
Jean Marie,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Erin, you responded, correct?
Yeah, I was a yes.
Okay, and Emily
Yes.
and Mary is an I. I got everyone. Okay. Anyone have a need to reprioritize the agenda for the evening? And Jean Marie will be mindful, might be able to even get out of here by 7 so everyone can go enjoy the beautiful evening. Okay, so no visitors to recognize. So Rhonda, you are up with the Bakersfield School Spotlight.
Thank you, Mary. So I have a little video that I've put together, and I thought for this spotlight, we would just kind of do a reflection of the year because it's been a little bit of a crazy year. But there's been a lot of good things that have happened, and we've got some kids who've been excited about a lot of the learning they've been doing. So I put together this reflection of this year, and I've asked kids, you'll see them in the video, there's pictures, but also some little clips of them telling me what their favorite part of this school year was. So hopefully the video works, and I will try to share it with you. Can you all see my screen?
Yep.
This is one of our 7th or 8th graders. 7th grade. What is one of your favorite things from this school year? What about the chickens? When they hatch. How many chickens do we have?
5. We used to have 6 or 7.
Thank you, Cole. Here are some 2nd graders. What is your favorite thing that you did this year?
Probably when we were painting rocks for Mother's Day because we got to go in the nature trail down.
Nice.
It was nowhere in the baseball field. It was like crazy there. Probably like, I don't know. Halloween. It's always fun too. Yeah, we got to do Halloween activities and stuff. That was fun.
Thank you.
Fun.
Right now.
My favorite part of the school year was Miss Tuck took like pizza.
Here is another one of our second graders. What was your favorite part of the school year?
When we had the chips.
What did you like about it?
When we got the hold them and pet them.
Thank you. These are Bakersfield third graders. What has been your favorite part of this school year?
I like that we made tie-dye shirts and when we did ice back after we got to do a lot of fun things. I liked it when we got to dress up as 100 years old and we did the volcano explosions because you got to see like them go everywhere. And I like all the like crafts we did, like the frogs and stuff.
Sounds like it's been a good year. Thank you, girls. Here are some of our fourth graders. What has been your favorite part about this school year?
Probably the extra recess and at the end of the day you get outside time. My favorite part about the school year was social studies. My favorite part about the school year is math. My favorite part of the school year was having snacks and lunch outside.
These are two of our fifth graders.
Yes, and it's on me.
What was your favorite part about this school year?
I don't know. I have no clue. Honestly, I don't know.
Seeing people again.
That's a good thing, yes. It's fun to see people.
Why is it sitting on me?
Give me
Kira.
You focused on the checks. How about the checks? Were they your favorite part?
Oh, they're so
Girls?
Yeah.
Yeah, the chicks are
Oh.
but
Definitely one.
definitely seeing people I think is better.
Yeah.
Thank Here's a couple more fifth graders. What has been your favorite part of this school year?
Making friends, math, history, a bunch of stuff. Mine is my mom healing from after surgery and getting time to spend with my friends and family. Yeah.
Thank you. What is your favorite part of this school year?
My favorite part is making friends and having fun and getting to go to a new school. My favorite part of the school year was being able to become friends with all these friends. My favorite part of the school year is being able to make friends and to have living.
What is your favorite part of this school year?
Recess. My favorite part of the school year was the kickball game. My favorite part of the day. My favorite part of the day was choice time. My favorite part is putting the chickens, and my favorite part was this year is when we began to have secret student and the celebration thing where we did the pom-poms and stuff, so we could have the big
What's your favorite part of this school year?
Packing chicks and packing together. That's fun. And seeing
Say that again, Faye.
seeing all of our friends.
Faye, what was your favorite part of this school year?
My teachers and my friends.
Thank you.
So there you have it.
It's awesome, Rhoda. It's exciting to hear from the mouths of our students some of the things that were actually fun and engaging this school year, even through all of the restrictions we had. It sounds like you found ways to have fun and bring some joy to those students. So thank you for sharing that.
Welcome.
Thanks so much. It's lovely. I'll echo what Lynn said. I just love hearing from the kiddos. It's really meaningful to kind of understand their experiences and what brings them joy. And I'm struck by how I know these kids have been through a lot this year and they're resilient. And that was really sweet, very touching. Thank you. So moving on then, Lynn, you're up with your report.
Okay, so I'm going to start in my section under personnel. And I have some hiring. I'm going to ask for the board to make a motion to approve hiring. So let's start with that. In Bakersfield, we would like to hire David Benzel to teach grade 4. And informational, Kara Newman, in Rhoda's report, you'll see that we're wanting Kara Newman to teach both ELA and social studies by merging the two into a humanities class. Bakersfield has also hired Nicholas Schwab to teach middle school science. In Berkshire, Sadie Sprain for grade 1. And also just informational, Rachel Hardy has been transferred to a full-time nursing in Berkshire. And then in Montgomery, Amanda Biggs, 0.4 FTE, so 2 days a week. She'll be sharing the rest of her full-time position with Richford Elementary. Catherine Belleville in grade 3, Natasha Lincoln in grade 1. Heather Maciag will be teaching pre-K. We'll be moving that position from an SU position into the NMV budget. Ashley Mercy, who is currently working as an LPN for us in both Montgomery and in Berkshire, has been hired to be a 0.5 half-time school nurse at Montgomery. In Sheldon, Jill Parody to teach grade 1, Sean Stebbins, middle school math, Nicole Batchelder. She's a long-term preschool sub for the remainder of the 2021 school year. So that is the hiring at this point.
Lynn, is there a supervising RN for that Montgomery position?
She is an RN.
Okay, you said she was working as an LPN, so I was
Correct.
confused.
Yeah, the position that we had open this year was for an LPN. So she was filling that role during the pandemic, but she is a licensed RN.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Would someone like to make that motion, or I'll make that motion to approve all of those hirings? Lynn, you don't need us to go through all the names again, I assume.
No, I don't know if Caroline is back on here, but I certainly could send them. Morgan, am I sending that to you?
I got it.
Okay, super.
And you have the full board now, Mary.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so by roll, Kat,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Jean Marie,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
and Mary is a yes.
can I just say how excited I am about that middle school science teacher? Oh, thank God. I'm super glad about
Ditto.
that.
That has been a hard to fill position. at
It has,
Bakersfield.
yeah.
Okay, so next up, I probably should have switched the order of these. Resignations in Bakersfield. Unfortunately, Kendra Pillsbury for middle school social studies is going to be moving on to a position closer to her home. Andrea Millette, the school nurse. In Berkshire, Brianne Boltby, she teaches grades 3 and 4. Lyndon McAllister, the head custodian. He's actually going to be the head custodian at Enosburg Elementary. Lisa Baker, paraeducator. Kelsey Jacobs, paraeducator. Also, Ashley Mercy, the LPN. She's resigning that 1 year only position. In Montgomery, Nicole LaCharity, grade 2. Rachel Hardy, school nurse. As I said earlier, she's moving to Berkshire. And James Wall, paraeducator. Leah Legassi, paraeducator. Robert Barnard, food service. That's an SU position, so that's informational only. Another resignation at Sheldon is Kim Gravitt, the middle school math teacher. So those are your resignations. So I would look for a motion to accept those resignations.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Jean Marie. By roll, Kat,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Jean Marie,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
and Mary is a yes.
Can I ask a question? Has Montgomery grade 4 been filled?
I'll defer to Sandy on that one.
Yes, Christina Bowen is moving to the 4-5 literacy in ELA social studies position.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So there are no additional retirements in any of your schools. We do have some open positions. It looks like, Rhoda, are you fully staffed?
Just the nurse piece.
Okay, we're working on something there.
Yeah.
Berkshire, there's a potential for, there's a middle school science position at grades 3-4, a halftime academic coach and head custodian, a para position, and the LEAPS site coordinator. That's an SU position, so that's also informational. In Montgomery, what I still have on the list is kindergarten, grade 2, the academic coach halftime position, and those are shared between Berkshire and Montgomery is the intention. Paraeducator position, and they're looking to hire an LNA, a licensed nursing assistant / paraeducator. And in Sheldon, they're looking for a paraeducator. And for NMV, we are looking to fill the school nurse position, the halftime at Bakersfield. We do have an idea that we're exploring, but we don't have anything solid yet. So that's just informational. You have one more thing under personnel, Mary, that is going to need to go into executive. So I don't know if you want to do that now or if you want to wait until the end.
Let's wait until the end and we can let our principals go, onto their evening.
But
Okay.
don't forget, in case you need me,
Oh, right.
I got a piece on it.
Then I'll let you make that call about Jean Marie's presence.
I do think it will be relatively brief, and I'll want one of your principals to stay.
Okay, well, so then why don't we do that now? So Jean Marie can participate in the executive session and Morgan can put everyone who shouldn't be in that session into a waiting room. So I'll just need a motion to enter executive session.
I'll make that motion.
For personnel.
Okay. Thanks. Kat,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Jean Marie,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
and Mary is a yes.
And you are out of executive session. And let's just
Okay,
give
and-
Northwest
and-
this moment to hit record.
Yeah, it looks like we're recording, and we'll put on the minutes that we have no motion needed coming out of executive. And Lynn, you can jump back into your report.
Okay. So Morgan, I'm going to try to share. Am I sharing my screen?
Yes.
Can you see the pandemic response plan summary?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So next up, I'm just going to give you an overview. I gave you, I think 2 board meetings ago, the overview of phase 1 of the pandemic response plan, and that was that data inventory. So next up is the phase 2, and this is the actual draft pandemic response plan. So just so you know, I sent this copy to you all in your email before the meeting, and I also sent you a survey link that we're using for all stakeholders that we're engaging with in terms of a review of our response plan. So we would love for you to listen tonight and then take an opportunity to review the response plan and then give us some feedback on that survey link. That would be very helpful. So as we talked about before, there are really 3 primary buckets of work that we are supposed to really focus our efforts on. The first bucket is social emotional learning, mental health and well-being. The second is engagement with learning, family engagement with school and truancy prevention. The third is academic proficiency. So based on the plans that each school, the data inventory and the plans and strategies that schools have considered and what we have considered as a supervisory union, we've put together this draft pandemic response plan summary. So I'll start off with the SEL work, SEL mental health and well-being. So it probably looks a little strange. I'm using 2 screens. So let me use my computer. So the first is that our intention, we recognize that not all teachers have had a lot of professional learning around how to teach social emotional learning skills to students. So we are going to be purchasing an instructional resource called Zones of Regulation for all students. And then we're all teachers, I should say, all classrooms. And then we're going to provide professional learning for those teachers by the end of the school year 23-24. We understand how important it is now more than ever to be able to have the capacity to check in on the well-being, the mental health and well-being of our students. And that's something we did during our data inventory, and we used some screening tools with students. So we're going to make sure that we purchase the best and the engaged screeners so that we will be able to determine if there are students that have some elevated risk. And we think that's going to be really helpful. The other piece that we have really leaned into is we have not had a really good data management tool that would allow us to pull data that kind of summarizes progress across the supervisory union and even summarizes progress within an entire school system. So we're going to be we have purchased a student data management system. It's called EduClimber. And the reason we like the EduClimber, one of the reasons is it has a really good SEL data management system and an academic data management system. And there are also pieces that can help us to track the types of services that students have received over time. So we also are looking at filling the SEL coordinator position that was vacated when Nick resigned. We know how important it is for us to provide professional learning for teachers on explicitly teaching executive functioning skills. And we also know that one of the mandatory parts of the plan is that for the first time, we need to be looking at our educational support system through the lens of the supervisory union level. So those have all been school-based before. Those teams will still remain school-based, but there'll be SU level coordination of our EST systems. So we'll be needing to either hire or delegate or appoint an FNESU EST coordinator. One of the things that also became apparent in the data is that we had some inequality in some of the resources that had been distributed across our schools. So we're really looking at ensuring that there's a more equitable distribution of those resources, including hiring, contracting, building the capacity of our existing staff through professional learning and instructional coaching, and also partnerships that exist with community organizations like mental health services, school-based clinicians, things like that. We also know that we have some students that have been over-identified under the category of emotional disturbance, and this was a shift in, I think it had to do with special ed qualification expectations. So there are students who now can be instead classified under other health impairment, and we believe that that will help us to have better aligned supports that will more closely match what the needs of the students are. There is a STEP alternative program. It's called STEPS, and it's right now a 9 through 12 program that we piloted this year at Richford High School, and that's shared between the Richford and Enosburg high schools. We are going to be piloting an expansion of that program at Richford Elementary School next year. So we'll be able to offer a K through 8 option in that STEPS program as well. The hope is we're starting with Enosburg and Richford next year, and the hope is we'll be able to expand as we demonstrate success with that program to be able to include the NMV schools. We're looking to, we have some homeschool coordinator positions across the supervisory union. And one of the things that it really became apparent during the pandemic was that, we saw some of our students, principals reported between 0 and 4% of students who totally disengaged from learning during the pandemic. And we think that it's going to be really important for us to, hold on. We think it's going to be really important for us not only to re-engage our students, but also re-engage some of the families that we work with, because they haven't really been able to participate and be a part of our public schools for about 1.5 years. So our plan right now, we have a family engagement coordinator position that is shared across the Enosburg schools. We're looking to do the same thing across the Richford schools. And then we're going to look at NMV and try to have someone whose focus is on engaging families and students in the area of school attendance and just determining if there are any other barriers to school attendance for families.
Lynn, can I ask a question on
Sure.
the data that you had given us, I think last time on the screening that had been done, and one of the stats that had stuck out to me was 83% of like 3rd graders had like an elevated risk of some kind on the emotional, well-being scale. So with these things that you're putting in place and those students that have already been identified, like whenever that was done, I'm assuming winter or spring of this year, like are those students already geared up then to be provided with some kind of support, headed into next year, or would they have already been provided some kind of support this year? Just looking at the dates, I guess, of how teachers are going to be involved, which is obviously a big long-term component years out. But then again, like what about those real immediate things that we've already found? And I wondered if you could just expand on that a little bit.
So I think that the years out piece that you might be referring to is around the zones of regulation in that 23-24 school year. That's our planned deadline to make sure that everybody's trained up by that point, from support staff through classroom teachers. But it isn't our intention to wait that long to get started. So we know that one of the answers is providing teachers with the support that they need so that they can start doing some of that work at the universal classroom level so that all students have access to that learning. And then at the same time, we've done a review of what types of resources in each school. So we identified Montgomery, for example, had less school counseling than other schools. So they have just a little bit more going into next year than what they had previously. But we're also looking at increasing where there were where there was fewer school counselors, we're looking to increase school-based clinicians. We're going to work on that. We have a staffing shortage in that, both in our partnership with NCSS in terms of contracting for that service, and also trying to contract with other community-based partners. So our intention is to equalize that a little more and increase the supports that are available. In the meantime, we're utilizing all the supports that we do have available to be able to, in the moment, support students when they're identified as having that elevated risk. I will tell you, in terms of the amount of need there is, we're understaffed. Now that's pretty clear. So that's something that we're going to continue to work towards. So I think that your question about would they have already received support, I think in a lot of those cases, the answer would be yes. If a child shows that they have an elevated risk across multiple domains, we have more school psychologists on staff in the SU than we've ever had. So we now have 4 full-time school psychologists to go into next year. And that's one more than we've ever had. And we're also looking, like I said, at increasing in other ways. So we've got our eye on that, but unfortunately the staffing barrier is something we're going to have a hard time navigating around.
Okay, thank you.
We'll be persistent, I promise, Kat. The other piece is around engagement with learning in the truancy prevention. So engaging families in truancy prevention. So we're hoping to be able to be more proactive about school attendance and not have our actions really focused at the level of when we have to kind of go punitive into the truancy piece. So we're talking about being more proactive. So we're hoping that we can increase the collaboration and create a partnership with the Restorative Justice Center. And we're hoping that through hiring some of those homeschool coordinators, we can do some real deliberate training and support so that they can be really clear, and we can develop kind of an intervention system around school attendance that would start at the classroom teacher level. And they would have a role in the first contacts around school attendance. And then next we would have how do the school counselors have a role? And then what about homeschool coordinators? And then at what point do we bring in some of the county-wide restorative justice homeschool specialists to be able to work through? I just need to pause for 1 second. Sorry about that. And then also focusing on developing EST plans, attendance plans for students before they get to that higher level of absences. We're also hoping to do more proactive work to engage families within our schools through one of the things I'm particularly interested in. And Lisa, I'm not sure where this is, but the community school bill, I'm very interested in that. I think that, we definitely have families that would benefit from us having partnerships with mental health and physicians, maybe dental offices, all working out of our schools so that it would be more accessible for our students and for our families. So I know that that's something that the legislature is considering right now, and there may be some grants available for us to be able to enhance that partnership. So we're keeping our eye on that. We know we have work to do around revamping our homeschool compacts and making sure that we're really thinking about individualizing educational experiences through the personalized learning plan process and student-led conferences. And we really look forward to being able to welcome people back into the building for events like exhibitions of learning and open houses and musical performances and things like that. We're also looking at how could we create some family advisory councils so they could help us to identify some of the needs that families may have within our system. We think that might help us. If we could identify what the barriers are, it might help us to be able to break them down more readily. The other piece is about, we did a look and analyzed what opportunities we have for extended day after school programming and summer programming that wasn't equitable across the supervisory union. So we have built into this plan increased summer programming for all students and transportation. There are some, because we're partnering, there will be some transportation that will be provided that hasn't been provided before, not for all of the programming, but where we are doing crosstown partnerships, certainly. The other piece is about spending some of our resources to be able to purchase some really highly engaging interdisciplinary materials and units that we can use with students over the summer. And the work that we've been doing as a supervisory union, the Portrait of a Graduate implementation, really clearly has ties to engagement for students. The other piece that we're exploring through this plan is a virtual learning option for students next year. There has been a back and forth with the Agency of Education, and we're still working through whether or not they're going to approve us to be able to have that option for next year. So we should be able to know that in the next week or so. The other piece is around professional learning for teachers, and that's really centered on the student-centered learning structures. So creating kind of a 4-year cycle for middle high school teachers focused on universal design for learning, personalization, proficiency-based assessments, and social emotional learning, particularly executive functioning. We are pleased we had a partner in designing this plan, in our Farm to School partner, and we're planning to increase those partnerships throughout our schools. And we're excited that the principals are going to have some opportunities to purchase things that they wouldn't typically be able to purchase. You know, we're thinking materials in, you know, STEAM, things that are centered on, you know, could be computer coding, could be robotics, could be, you know, arts, could be any number of things, but things that are really centered on really engaging students and getting them eager and excited to be at school. And then also the idea, the notion of creating a student advisory council, again, to help us to identify any barriers or needs that exist with the student body and having that avenue to help inform us. In terms of our work around diversity, equity, and inclusion, we've hired a DEI director to help advance that work within our system. We are looking at how can we identify. We're going to start with what's called the hidden curriculum audit to be able to identify the barriers that exist for students to feel that sense of safety and belonging in all of our schools, and identify any of the barriers that exist for them in terms of them having access to full participation in everything we offer. So that's something we're eager to get the data on. And then we're going to develop a multi-year plan based on the results of that audit. We're also going to create curriculum tools for implementation of the new state level equity standards that I'm not sure of the timeline of that. I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to see those standards released soon, but we're poised and ready to be able to create tools to make that really accessible for our teachers. Certainly our plan involves also providing really embedded ongoing professional learning for all of our staff, and to purchase curriculum and library materials, both for library and for classroom libraries, that show a more diverse perspective and more diverse characters, and in all of the areas of our schools. Also to articulate and reinforce what's happening within FNESU in terms of this work. The other piece of this is we have a team that has signed up to be working with the Vermont Superintendents Association and Novak Education, and it's really going to be centered on equity work, particularly through the lens of universal design for learning. So it's all about creating opportunities and access for all students to be able to achieve at high levels. So I'm going to shift to academic proficiency. And one of the primary goals that we have for academic proficiency is improving the effectiveness of our professional learning community teams in FNESU. So we are contracting or partnering with Solution Tree this summer to train up our principals and their leadership teams, so we can go into next year really poised and ready with the tools that we need to get off on the right foot in terms of those meetings really being impactful and really having a positive effect on student learning in the classroom. We're also spending a lot of our time and effort focusing on improving our MTSS effectiveness. And you've been hearing us talk about this a lot this school year. So you've heard us talk about the STAR assessment tool for K through 12. We're going to have that STAR tool K-12 throughout the entire supervisory union. That'll be the first time that we have something like that that's consistent. And our student data management tool will also be consistent across the supervisory union. So those are certainly really positive changes in terms of our system. Also providing, I talked already about the EST coordinator and really being purposeful about making decisions based on student learning data and having that at the forefront of all of our regular meetings as well, including bringing more student learning data to the board meetings as well. So we're working on that plan for next year. So a big part of our academic proficiency response plan is centered on improving literacy, reading proficiency for all of our students, in particular to start out with our youngest students. So focusing on building those foundational skills in our K through 2. So we're going to be purchasing foundations, and so we feel like that's going to be really strong, have a really strong impact within our system, and then providing professional teachers an assessment system that we haven't had for our K through 8, actually an updated assessment system, and then providing teachers with the professional that they need for the literacy program and assessment. Providing professional learning for we kind of have a plan where we're focusing on the literacy effort in the first 2 years in K2, and then in year 3, we would shift up to 3 through 5. And then it's kind of the opposite for math. So the other piece is about purchasing classroom libraries teachers have in terms of implement the units of study, resource fidelity, and grades 3 through 6, which we have not had in terms of providing for those educators as well. So have not had resources to be able to purchase what are called high-low libraries for classrooms, so that students who are above level or below level have on topic access to rich reading materials. So we'll have that, and we'll also be able to purchase intervention kits for classrooms and schools as well. I know this is a lot, I apologize. Also, one of the issues that we have, and we've talked to you all about the teacher retention and teacher turnover data. So we know that we have teachers, we're turning over more teachers than we would like each school year. So we know that in order to be able to sustain these efforts over time, we need to have a plan for how do we train up the new teachers as they come on board. So part of this plan is we're going to be paying our current teachers to build tools that we can train future teachers, some of the work that we're doing right now. And that'll become part of the new teacher orientation modules for future new hires. Like I said, the increasing math proficiency is also a focus. We're going to continue a partnership with All Learners Network. We'll begin with 3 through 12, focusing on math in the first 2 years. And then we will shift to pre-K2 in year 3. The other piece that we have not had in the past is an aligned math resource for our middle schools, so that we're beginning that work on a selection process for that, and we'll have some funding to be able to purchase those tools and that resource. And then the rest of this is really focused on instructional resources and professional learning. The other piece is making sure that our special educators have access to that same high quality professional learning that our classroom teachers will have. Also up is professional learning for all middle school, high school, and unified arts teachers. I already spoke about that. I have two screens, so it takes me a second to get my mouse to go where I want it to go. We are also tuning into the need for us to think about long-term sustainability plans for our current teachers and our future teachers and our substitute teachers. And then that is a link to the feedback form. Are there any questions?
Lynn, you just had a comment that I'm going to tell you that the bill on community schools went to the governor today. So he has 5 days to sign it or do what he wants to do with it.
Well, I'm hopeful that he will pass that bill.
So stay tuned.
I'll be watching, Lisa.
Okay, it should come in a press release. So you should be able to find out about it pretty quickly, but I'll try to remember to forward it to you when I get it.
Lynn, thanks so much. That's an incredibly impressive and comprehensive. I mean, it's a really deep dive, and I'm just impressed with the kind of what we're doing in the shorter term, just the long-term vision, and how it's all going to kind of flow. It's complicated for sure. As far as a lot of the purchasing and things of kind of materials and the reading materials, I'm assuming a lot of that is going to be, we're going to be able to fund through some of the federal ESSER funds and such.
Yes, that most of what you just heard about is going to be funded through a lot of those recovery funding sources. There's also we do have consolidated federal grants that we can have access to, as well as the IDEA resources that come to us for special education as well. So we're working through which of the strategies are going to be paid out of which funding source, because each funding source has different rules associated with them. So that's really the level we're at now. And I really should have started with saying, this is a multi-year plan. And it's a little overwhelming when you hear it all at once, because it's a lot to work on. It's not going to be that we accomplish all those things in year one, day one. It could be that some of these things are ready to go at the start of this next school year. It could be that we are not able to implement some of the things until partway through the year, or maybe even in year 2 or year 3. So some of the resources are available to us until the fall of 24 so we do have quite a bit of time for us to be able to totally finalize our plan. And my intention certainly is to use all of the resource that has been made available to us in a really wise way. And my hope is not to make a short-term impact on some students. The hope is that we can make a long-term impact on a lot of students, both students that are with us now and students that'll be coming into our system in the future. I think that's the kind of the responsibility that we have with this money, is we know that we have students who have been impacted now who need some immediate resources and supports, and we have a real opportunity to make a difference in our system, like I said, for the long term. So those are our goals as we're trying to plan forward with this money.
Yeah, that's excellent, Lynn. And I had another thought when you were talking about kind of the need for more kind of mental health support in the kind of SEL realm. And, I know we've had this conversation before as a board about, wanting, and with you, of course, to want to use the funds wisely and not over invest in things that we can't support with our budget when we no longer have access to this kind of massive influx of funds. So we need to choose wisely. But the flip side of that, when you were speaking around kind of the need for the human resources to support the kind of heavy lift of kind of the kind of psychological and mental health support that we need to offer our learners, that's one realm where I wonder, we may just need to use some of this money to support at the human resources level what it takes to get the people and the and get kind of staffed up in that capacity. And then just not to be frivolous financially, we'll have to see where when that money is no longer available to support those staff people, what we do at that point. But we don't maybe want to completely ignore the possibility of using some of these funds to bring on the kind of human resource kind of needs, especially in that mental health arena, because our students can't learn if they're not being supported on all of these levels, including that SEL and then a mental health capacity. And this has been a doozy of a year and a half for so many. So just my 2 cents around that particular aspect.
It's a really great point, Mary. I think that we've tried to be really careful in not targeting a huge portion of the money towards hiring, while at the same time we have strategically put some positions in the spending plan, because what we want to avoid is having that funding cliff at the end of this. So that's a piece that we're trying to navigate our way through. And again, it's about that long-term impact. What can we do now that will pay off down the road? So we'll keep our eye on that piece.
I guess too, Lynn, on that note, I'm seeing, right at the end, towards the end, the licensed substitute teachers being provided for all professional learning opportunities. Is that going to be a challenge?
It's definitely going to be a challenge, but I don't think that we're not going to get all of them to come, but we do have some of our substitute teachers who every year ask if there are opportunities that they can participate in. So we'll have ways that we could invite those licensed substitute teachers in for those professional learning opportunities.
Okay, I guess I wasn't really clear then what letter C under number 5 meant, because I was thinking that you were going to provide licensed substitute teachers for classroom teachers who were needing to take professional learning opportunities. I was not thinking that applied to the actual substitute teachers themselves. So
I actually think, Lisa, that I'm merging 2 strategies in my mind. And I think what you just said is what was intended there.
Okay.
We have talked about providing professional learning for our substitute teachers, especially in SEL and in math and early literacy. But you're right, that strategy is more focused on trying to hire licensed teachers that we can utilize to free up our teachers to come out to do some of this professional learning. Thank you for noticing that.
You're welcome. Just because I've been in that industry, I do think that that's a really good idea on both sides, providing training of any kind for substitute teachers, particularly around SEL, and also being able to provide licensed and trained people for the professionals who are going out on leave to do these professional learning opportunities. So I think I know a lot of schools have investigated utilizing, like floating subs that are just hired on a not permanent, but a more full-time basis, so that they're available when you need to fill those slots. So just some suggestions that I'm throwing out there.
Lynn, have you had any responses when you have put feelers out there to people who have bachelor's degrees and they can do that program where it takes a year and they can get their teacher license?
We have one teacher in it currently who should have her license at the end of the year. We hired her actually. She's been working this year under a provisional or an emergency license. Should be fully licensed next year. And I'm not certain, I think we had at least 2 or 3 that were interested. I haven't gotten a report to see how many have actually committed yet this year, but there did seem to be a little more interest. I think really COVID got in the way of that strategy last year, and it was a deterrent for people to sign up, but there has been some interest this year. But now it'll shift to some of those will be in person in Southern New Hampshire. So that's also a little bit tricky, but hopefully we'll get more. I do have one other thing on my agenda, Mary, and that is around, I shouldn't jump ahead. Were there any other questions on COVID response before I move on? Okay. The last thing I have is around summer hiring, because this is intended to be your last board meeting before the end of the year. So I'm going to ask the board to make a motion to grant me the authority to fill the remaining open positions throughout the summer.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Kat. By roll, Emily,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Kat,
Yes.
and Mary is an aye, and Jean Marie has left the meeting.
That's all I
And
have.
Lynn, was that it for you then?
It is.
Okay, excellent.
And Mary, you made that last motion?
No, Kat made that last motion.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so we have the principal reports, which were in the packet. Any questions or comments for our principals, or anything that any of the principals might like to share in addition to your report?
I just wanted to comment to Christy on the Stall Street Journal. I was just so impressed with that. And I just think these kids are so brave, and just, I think that's amazing. And I think it's awesome that, you know, right on the ground level with these kids, they're aware and involved, and, you know, May being Mental Health Awareness Month. And I just thought that was awesome. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. It's not part of a class either. It's just a volunteer thing. Last year it was like an elective kind of, and so they just wanted to continue doing it. It's been pretty cool.
I was so moved by that, Christy. It's so important and brings these hard conversations a little bit out of the shadows. And the more we do that, we're all better for it. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. It was great. And I just wanted to say I was really happy to read in all the principal reports that, you know, some of the end of the year activities and celebrations and trips that 8th graders are taking. And, you know, I know we're not out of the woods yet, but it was really heartwarming to see that we're getting there, and that the kids are having opportunities to kind of celebrate. Especially, I was thinking, as the parent of an 8th grader, just really happy to see that they're getting to kind of be with their peers and celebrate a long and challenging and still successful year. And that was lovely. And these little bits of normalcy creeping back in, it's very heartwarming. Anything else for principals from other folks, board members?
I just want to thank the principals for their hard work again this year. It feels like we keep saying that, and we can't imagine it was going to be hard, but it was. So thank you very much. And I hope you all get a really well-deserved break this summer.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I concur with that for sure. All right. And so if we have nothing else from principals, Morgan, it looks like you have a very small financial update for us.
And it's even smaller because we did receive another draft of the audit and then returned it for a couple more minor changes. So I'll be bringing that to you hopefully at your next board meeting. And I have nothing under other.
Okay, great. Thanks, Morgan. So as we kind of near wrapping up, any future agenda items that anyone wants to bring to the forefront right now?
Quick question. I see our next scheduled meeting is July 7th, so we're not going to take July off again this year. We're going to keep working through.
Sorry, Lisa, you kind of timed out a little there. Can you repeat your question?
Sorry, I just saw that we have July 7th scheduled as our next board meeting. So we are not taking any time off this summer. Is that correct?
I actually missed that in the agenda. Morgan, were you needing a board meeting in July? Because right.
I do not need the board in July. I think we have it on the schedule, but it's up to you all if you want to keep that or wait till August.
I could wait.
That's one for no July meeting.
Second for no July meeting.
Third.
Well, I think we could maybe take it off the table, and then certainly if something emergent came up, we can always call a special meeting. Lynn, does that feel workable as far as what you all your needs of the board are as we head into the summer?
I'm hoping that this is going to be a very different summer than last summer. I think my principals are hoping that too. I appreciate, Lisa, what you said about the principals. These leaders have not taken probably nearly any vacation since the pandemic started, and it has just been nonstop kind of crisis response mode for going on 16 months, I think, at this point. So I know I certainly appreciate them too, and they've done a tremendous job of supporting teachers and students and families during this really challenging time.
Oh, Lynn, that reminds me, because what you just said, we did have a situation last year around that a lot of the principals were not able to even use their vacation days. We talked about this, I think, in the fall when we got started. So where does that stand for the principals?
So we had talked last year that, so the way it works is that the principals have 20 days of vacation every year, and they're allowed to roll over up to 20 days. So if they don't use their vacation, they can roll it over. So on July 1, they could start July 1 with 40 vacation days. But if they had more than that they had accrued that they hadn't used from the previous year, they would lose anything remaining. So I think that last year you made the decision that they could roll over without losing vacation days for 2 years. So I don't think anybody's going to lose any this year, but there is a dilemma in that they're going to earn another 20 days. And the reality is, I know these leaders are not going to use by next year all of the days that potentially lose the following year. So you're right, Mary. We had talked about coming back and making a decision about, how do we, I know we can't make this completely right with the leaders who certainly didn't take any time away from the job in the past year, but we did have a conversation about, does the board want to do something else to kind of rectify that?
And Lynn, what, as far as, and I guess it would be helpful to hear from the principals, what helps make them whole in that regard? Is it being more flexible with the rolling over? Is it finding some sort of comparable kind of financial compensation that equals those vacation days? And
I
I'm
do
certainly
know-
open to you know, kind of hearing what makes the most sense for people's lives.
In some other schools, I mean, the principals are blindsided. They did not know I was bringing this up tonight. So I just want to say this. And I know that in some other systems, what they've done is just said, how about we buy back like 5 of those vacation days for the principals who would typically be at risk of losing those days. And so let's, you know, at least go through what we said we would do last year and allow them to not lose any into next summer. Lenny's given an emoji response.
Yeah, I definitely like that idea. I kind of chuckle when I love the offers that you guys have put in place. I think all of us are dedicated principals, and we, at least for me, I never can professionally, from my perspective, like take all the time I even have available off, because there's just too many important things to do over the course of the summer that I may find maybe a week of vacation and a day or 2 here, but I struggle to find ways to take more of that time that I have off. So you guys could keep giving me vacation days, which would be great, but I'll never really be able to responsibly or comfortably use them, just because I know I need to be in the building, I need to be doing things. So that potential offer of buying back some time, I think would be really cool and greatly appreciated. Again, not necessary. I know that this is what we sign up for and we're here to help kids, but I definitely wouldn't say no to some sort of thoughtful offering like that.
I agree with Lenny. I find it really hard to take too many days off in a row. And, you know, even looking at my calendar right now, how many things are already on there for the summer, and the number of free weeks are not many. And we're back by August 17th, you know, so it's really not that long. There's not that many weeks. And then you go away for a week and then you need 2 weeks to catch up on what you missed. So, so I kind of agree with one on all that.
So do we know how many principals that this would impact, Lynn?
So I had asked for a while and followed up and never got that report. So I would check on that, Lisa. My gut would tell me all of them. I mean, I certainly would expect that if they had anything over 20 remain, frozen or everybody else.
No,
Can you
we
hear me?
can hear you. Can you hear us, Lynn?
I was totally frozen, so I have no idea.
No,
Well-
that's okay, Lynn. Now that you're back, you
Okay.
didn't miss anything and we didn't really miss too much. Is this something that needs to be decided before July 1st? Or is it something that can wait till our August meeting and you can get back to us with that information?
This would be a great
I think-
fiscal year to take this, to pay this out. So it'll be
Okay,
great if
so we
could have it
should
tonight.
make this decision now.
Yeah, I
So we
think
have
that
no
you give
idea.
the-
We have no idea what the cost would be for that.
it would vary depending on your principals if you
Right.
were going to, you know, do the per diem.
Right, but if you said, you know, there are 10 principals that need 5 days, and then you calculated out how many dollars per day for each of them, you could have brought us a cost that we could have voted on. But now it's just like an open-ended day.
Yeah, I'm trying to get into the software to let you know that. It is only 4 principals for this board. It's not 10.
I think that we could,
I don't know why I was thinking 10, I guess I was thinking Enosburg as well. So yeah, ballpark. I think to just go ahead and do that. With the knowledge that this is a one-time thing, the pandemic that we really couldn't have people taking vacation when they needed.
Visible at all but it just, while we kind of hash out what makes the most sense and hear the numbers and the kind of fiscal impact from Morgan, I'm fully in support of honoring you all, and what I know was, you know, a really impossible time to take earned vacation for, you know, for sure. I think it's absolutely the right thing to do. I think we just need to figure out where we land.
I'm not sure why I keep freezing. I'm in the same building as Morgan. So I'm not sure what's happening here, but I think that you could go into executive under contracts.
Yeah, that would be my preference if other people are in support of that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so I will make that motion to move into executive session to discuss principal compensation for lost vacation time.
Mary, I think you'd go in under contracts.
Okay, to discuss contracts of principals. By roll, Kat,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
Erin,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Miranda,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
and Mary is an aye.
And you are out of executive session.
Okay, great. So we're back with our principals, and the motion on the table is that we will buy back up to 5 vacation days in excess of 20 from our principals. By roll, Kat,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
Erin,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Miranda,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
and Mary is an aye. Okay. So just by finishing up with board business, we are not going to have a meeting on July 7th unless something emergent evolves, and then we'll call a special meeting. And then just under other, I chatted a little via email with Lisa earlier, and we were going to continue the conversation via email with board folks, but since Jean Marie gave us such a easy way to talk about her behind her back, Lisa had the very kind of thoughtful suggestion of a parting gift as Jean Marie kind of prepares to bow out in August. I think everyone knows she's building a new home in St. Albans, and their house is close to selling, not sold yet. So I just wanted to open up for any kind of ideas or thoughts and make sure that everyone kind of was supportive of a gesture and token of thanks from the board to Jean Marie. I had floated the idea to Lisa about maybe like a potted, well, this is the farmer in me. I'm always thinking of plants. You could never have too many plants and flowers. I was thinking of maybe a lilac bush or something like that they could plant at their new home that they're building, but I'm certainly open to other suggestions. And I even am willing to donate the actual digging of the hole and planting of the bush, because I'll never forget being inundated with bulbs one fall by someone who thought they were giving me this wonderful gift. And it was so overwhelming to plant 200 bulbs in the fall harvest season. I was like, that's not a gift at all. So I'll plant the tree and dig the hole or the bush if that's how we go, but I'm certainly open to other suggestions.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, we all know she loves flowers and nature and birds, and yeah, I think anything along those lines she would really, really like.
I agree. Planting in memory of all of her time here. And if you're offering to dig the hole, because that was my first thought, like, oh, more work when you're moving. So if you're gonna go dig the hole, that's awesome.
I will bring a shovel. I'm ready. I'm up for the challenge. So great. I'll work on that. And Lisa, thank you for that really thoughtful reminder. It's a nice gesture. Jean Marie has been such a long-standing member of both the Bakersfield Single District Board and then the NMV. And I know I probably speak for all of us that we'll miss her quite a bit. So great. Okay. And other than that, any other board business that anyone wants to talk about?
Lisa, did you want your SU update? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I saw that on the agenda. I was going to ask about that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I missed that here. Yeah, thanks,
That's
Emily, for
okay.
catching that.
Sure. So I'll do my best. I'm a little sleepy. So one of the big discussions we had at the SU meeting was the food service contract for Sheldon. It was a very long and thoughtful discussion with a lot of different feedback and some valid points, both to in support of the Abbey group and not. And after a vote, I think it was 4 yeas and 2 nays, we voted as a board to move away from the Abbey and move toward the in-house food service management, ran by none other Dawn Reed. And I think, yeah, it was a decision that we made as a board, and that's where we're at with that. The other big conversation was around the administrative space. And I think some site visits were scheduled per request. One was the Pearly Block and the other was People's Plaza. Some people have already looked at these sites. They just wanted to have eyes on, I think, get a greater understanding of the potential and what, if any, adaptations would need to be made to make it suitable for the number of staff and the ADA perspective as well. I was unable to go look at the space. I'm not sure who has, but it's my understanding that we asked Morgan to potentially negotiate an extension on the current lease. That's my understanding. We did talk about the facilities management position on an SU level. And then I feel like we might have landed on possibly keeping is it Kelly? Is that his name? Keeping Kelly as our facilities guy, and then, you know, putting the ball in Enosburg Richford's court in terms of if they want to move forward with a like position. Is that accurate, Lynn and Morgan? So those were the big things. Other than that, it was just some personnel stuff.
That is super helpful. Thank you so much, Emily. I think that took you about 3 minutes, so I really appreciate those 3 minutes of your time.
Sure.
Thank you.
It took a lot longer in the meeting.
Yes. And I would love to watch the live streams of the meetings or the YouTube videos, but I just don't have that kind of time. So
Of course.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Great. Thanks. Such a good catch, Emily. I'm like, oh, right. It's right there. I totally missed it. Thank you for catching that. And I'm glad that felt helpful, Lisa. Anything else, folks? Well, we have a little bit of light left. It's beautiful out. Hope everyone has a nice rest of their evening. I just need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thanks, Kat. And all in favor want to give me a thumbs up. All right. Take care all.
Thank you.